Hey everybody, this is Jeremiah from Guardian. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to share with you a conversation we had over the past weekend regarding the recent church shooting that happened the last Sunday of 2019, December 29th, at West Freeway Church of Christ in White Settlement, Texas. And we were talking about a few things regarding it, thought it might be informative and helpful to some of you. This was an unrehearsed, completely candid, and this is unedited conversation. So hopefully it'll spark some thoughts, maybe some conversation, and maybe we will see some good even out of the tragedy as we're able to better learn to respond to these things. So stick around with us, enjoy the conversation, and let us know what thoughts you may have on it. So you watched the video, didn't really see much about it.
No, it was either late or really early when I saw it, and I was going to the gym, and
Right.
I watched the video, and I didn't get to read any of the.
I saw the
text.
unedited.
I saw it.
one.
I saw it come up. It came up within like 40 minutes of it happening.
exactly.
I saw it.
Yeah.
And
I
as
was
soon as it
sitting-
came across, I sat there and watched it 5 times.
I was sitting at
just
dinner
to get an idea
and
of what was going on.
we
and-
did the same thing, just to try to figure out what it was.
Right.
You know.
Well, it was interesting from the perspective of he killed 2 people. How many more would he have killed?
Oh, multiple.
And just put it in perspective of time. Look back at the previous shooting in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
How many that guy killed? There was nobody in there that was armed because they all had too much respect for a house of worship, and all their guns were in the car out of
Right.
respect for a house of worship, right?
Right.
This time we've got at least 6 people that were armed. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah,
saw
there were guys
6
all over
guns,
him.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure there were more than that.
Yeah. Several
So,
women coming around the corner.
The fact that there were guns in the room and the fact there were people that weren't afraid to use them, we can talk about the tactics all day long. And yeah, there
Right.
were some tactical things that need to be addressed. However, they stopped him within 7 seconds for sure
Yeah.
of this shooting happening. So yeah, we've got 2 people that died, but they stopped him within 7 seconds of it happening because there were guns in the room.
Right.
So what's that going to do in bad guys' minds now?
Mm-hmm.
Not go to Texas.
Because that guy did not go in there. I mean, I'm sure if he went in there with a gun, he expected to not make it out alive. I would
Oh
imagine.
yeah, for sure.
I don't know his motives. But he didn't
And I don't think
expect to
anybody
make it
does
out
yet. I
alive.
haven't heard
But he
any
didn't
reasoning.
expect to fail so early.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely not.
So that's a huge step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the fact that there were people armed, whether or not they were trained sufficiently.
Well, and
They
that's
were
what I was
armed,
getting
they
at.
were
I had
prepared,
heard that guy
they
had been
were-
trained somewhat,
Right.
Right.
because I did hear like an interview that he had with
Yeah.
whoever
Mm-hmm.
that he typically wouldn't have aimed for the head, but it was the only shot that was
Right.
presented, so he took it, and luckily he had training and it was a decent shot.
Yeah. He was obviously capable of making that shot at that time at that range.
And at that range, that's what I was most
Yeah.
impressed of, like, because he dropped him, and I was like, that was a pretty good shot, even though it may have been 7 yards.
Yeah.
I think it was more than that.
I think
based
it was
on
across the
based
pews
on
at an
arm
angle.
length.
Yeah.
I kind of tried to calculate
too.
based on arm length.
I was looking
It looked like it was
25
about 15 yards is what I was coming up with.
It could have been that
So,
far.
give or take, it was still a good distance, especially
he was
for a
moving.
headshot, and he was moving.
Right.
So, the biggest thing that I kind of like when I first looked at it, because I didn't know what on earth it was, and I had to watch it about 3 times before you identified
Before you see who's doing what.
who was
Yeah.
involved, right? And it looked like, you said that the guy stood up and started to draw. He stood up, he was standing. It was like he was being confronted, but I don't know.
Well, there were 2 guys there at the
Correct. But the
Which
thing
one
is,
are you
the
talking about?
one who got shot first,
Okay. Yep.
the big guy who got
Yep.
shot first. It was 100% looked like he was reaching, but it was the slowest. I don't know if he thought it was a discreet draw.
Right.
I don't know if he was having the mindset of, I'm just going to kind of do this, and maybe he's not serious, and this is a challenge more than an execution. But he was easily within 2 arms reach. And choosing gun over hands on is purely it's 100% people's mindset.
Right.
A gun is the first tool. And again,
Well, and you also look at
not keyboard
It's
warrior.
obviously
the
a
armchair.
younger guy that's standing there
Correct.
with the gun versus him. He was an older guy. So
Correct.
You look at physical discrepancy.
You know, but it's 100% a training, a methodology.
Mhm.
You know, and
The guy
he
with
may
the-
have still died.
The guy with the
Right.
gun out has the fastest draw though.
100%. And people that are still looking at gun out and I'm going to reach and try to draw.
But even so, from the time the shotgun, from what I saw, from the time the
Presentation to that
shotgun
first
was
shot.
displayed to the time that he got shot, there was just a hair over 3 seconds.
Mhm.
Now, the way we train, you know, a 2-second concealed draw for any of us in what we're wearing right now,
Is a
2
piece of cake.
seconds is, I mean, from that distance, in 2 seconds, all of us would have at least 3 shots off from
Correct.
concealment. Pretty much guaranteed.
Correct.
But then you're thinking, you know, if those two guys weren't as trained as the shooter, they draw
Right.
without contemplating like I'm drawing to kill,
Right.
or
Right.
to
Well,
to
I wonder
Stop
how
the
much,
threat.
because you have no audio. And if the guy presents and is talking, he's challenging.
Right.
oh 100%.
If he's challenging, I'm looking for a time and opportunity.
right,
If it's execution, there's not a darn thing you're going to do about it.
Right.
So it 100% comes down to, is it a challenge or is it an execution?
right, and like you said, we don't have all the information
We do
about
not.
what was said or no audio and anything.
Correct. But
So-
it was obvious that he shot the first gentleman and then immediately turned and went to the second. And I don't, again, without it right in front of me, but he was standing or stood.
The
Yeah, he
second
stood-
guy was standing.
Was standing.
Yeah, the
when-
first guy stood 1st,
Mhm.
reached for his gun, and then the second
shot
one
him.
standing basically on bang, bang.
Yep. One of the most interesting things that I got out of it was by the second shot, the guy who took the fatal shot, he was already reaching. He had a hand on.
Mhm.
So they were already watching this guy.
Yep.
They had
Yeah,
eyes on him.
he
They
said
were
on the
fully
interview
aware.
that they could tell he was wearing like a fake wig, I think,
Mhm.
and a fake beard
And the trench coat.
and the trench coat. That's
And one of the church security guys was sitting in the pew
in what
right
world
behind
would
him.
you not look at that guy and think that's not good?
We've got to shut this down and get him out of
Yeah.
the main area.
Like you could immediately profile him. Like that is not a good person.
In that situation, would that be a situation where, you know, not second guessing them, but would that be a situation where we would go hands on? In the sense of, hey, can we come check?
Get your hands
and
off.
As soon as that happens, now we know there's a problem.
Correct.
Right.
And that's kind of what I think is.
But here, he can't get that shotgun.
and when I go,
here in the
get
same
your,
position.
and I start into this.
And there, it's still a grab the shotgun.
Yeah.
And it's still it's hands on.
Well, here's one of my reasons. You know, my church, we have people all the time talking about a security team. Well, what is that security team? A security team is a bunch of concealed carry people that don't understand they don't have the power of arrest.
Right.
We've got reserve deputies. We've got Rogers County Sheriff. We've got Claremore PD. Okay, great. We're out of uniform. We don't have the power of arrest. All we have is a citizen's arrest or as a security detail, we at least have the authority to say you're trespassing, get off our property,
Right.
and help escort, right?
Mhm.
The reality is, though, is that most people barely have the ability to handle a gun, period. And a gun was not the answer.
Correct.
All
for
of
the
the
first two
answer to
guys.
this, but preventative.
Yeah.
Preventative.
Right. There was so much that,
Engagement prior.
you know, it's really hard to second guess because we don't hear the conversation.
Right.
We don't
And
see what
there
they
was
saw.
no
But we
video
know
showing like
that-
how did he get in there?
We
Where
know
did he
that
come
there was
from?
communication saying this guy's a problem.
Right.
We need eyes on this guy. And they had you look at 1, 2, 3, 4.
Already
I know of at
in
least
place.
4 security people that were already within 10 yards of the guy.
Oh yeah.
And
So
all I'm
just-
talking about is look at it in your church.
Mhm.
Look at it in mine. You know, when that has already began and there's already been conversations, this is remove from premises, remove
Right.
from the main congregation, get out of the main room, get within arm's reach. But how many people do you trust to be within arm's reach of that individual?
In my church, 1.
Are we looking at him? You know, when I look at it and I look at the same thing, that's what I'm talking
No,
about.
there's
is-
another guy or two that have the verbal skills to be able to deal with him, but
The physical skills.
the physical skills probably not. You
The
know, because they haven't
situational
trained it.
skills? Yeah.
Situation. Yeah, there were 1 or 2 that they could handle themselves in a situation like that.
Correct.
Not because they've trained for that in particular, because they can think.
But see, I
You know,
believe
but-
that we're looking at this as forget that shooting. Like, I'm not second guessing anything with them. I'm talking
Right.
our church. I'm
Right.
talking our environment. I see something go down. I'm going to get very close and to start communicating. I'm going to start engaging
Mhm.
because I can do nothing from 10 yards away.
Right.
I'm in control when I'm here.
Right.
And I think that's something that a lot of people need to get through because a lot of people want to talk about active shooters.
Right.
Because active shooting occurs when the gun's out and he's shooting people.
The active
Like-
shooter started somewhere before.
And the active shooter was, he shot the first guy, he shot the second, and he went, oh, there's too many people, I'm out. And I don't know if he was turning to run, if he was turning to go to the pasture. I don't know what
I think
the
he was
intent
turning for a
was.
target.
But he could have been turning for the guy that he knew was behind him. There's
Well, I'm also looking at another thing that I've thought through from my perspective is the theological problems that are behind this kind of issue. Because number one, because I know that the argument is, because I've heard it, is, but they're in church, they want help. We want to be able to help them because they're in church. The problem that I have with that is, to me, the meeting of the church is not for the outside. To me, the meaning of the church is for the church body to be strengthened and encouraged to go out and do evangelism and then bring people in that they have evangelized. The primary purpose of the church gathering is not for evangelism,
Sure.
from my perspective. So, who is the priority for me to protect in my church service?
Yeah.
It's our church people.
Right.
And if you're a stranger coming in, you don't have a right to be there.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that.
You as a
completely.
stranger, you don't have the right to be there. When a stranger comes in, no, it's not that I'm trying to be unwelcoming.
No.
I'm trying to welcome them, but I'm also recognizing you don't have a right to be here. I do.
Yeah.
My family does. These people in my church, they have the right to be
Sure.
here. This is our church. We want to welcome you if we can, but if you're acting strangely,
Right.
that's where it comes down to you don't have the right to be here.
Well, and I think that's
Therefore,
something
I
that-
don't have a problem escorting somebody out if
But
they're
see,
not
I
acting
think that's the
appropriately.
thing is we always talk about mindset, right? We're always talking about, well, where's their mind at? What are they willing to do? We talk about that with the concealed carry or
Constantly.
defensive. It's always about what are you willing to do? Your willingness, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're not even willing to say that we have insiders and outsiders, then you're not willing to stand and be impolite.
Right.
How many times do we talk about that? You're walking in, somebody asks you for money. If you aren't even willing to say no,
Mhm.
to be rude, to come across rude, you haven't even given yourself permission to
Right.
engage in order to shut down whatever was taking place.
Mhm.
I'm saying you can make that choice, but know that you made that choice. And I feel like a lot of people haven't even had that conversation
Right.
to say, do I have permission to be rude? Do I have permission to come across as possibly rude?
Or maybe they think too much about it. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
But that's what I'm getting at. If I have to walk up and go, hey man, we need to take this out, and we begin to engage to escort, but I'm perceived as rude, if the church leadership is not on board, we're going to have a problem, especially when it's not legit. If
Right.
it was legit, nobody's going to question you then.
Right.
But it's the fear of, but what if it's not? And I offend. So we need to have that conversation. And that's why when people want to talk about guns, this is not a gun conversation.
Right.
This
And
is
everybody,
a mindset.
when they're talking church security, because I have people ask me all the time about
Absolutely.
church security, and the first thing they want to do is come out to the range and shoot. And I've been trying to tell people it's not about come out to the range and shoot. And even with this incident, people are pointing at this and saying even more.
This is why we need
And I'm
guns.
like, no,
This
no,
is
no.
why, right.
This is, yes, we do need firearms. Yes, we do need training in firearms. But this thing should show us even more
It's
why
only a
there's
portion
something
of it.
before firearms.
Correct. Because
that
the
we've got to deal
firearms
with the
stopped
interaction.
it within 7 seconds.
Right, but could it have been, hypothetical,
Right.
could it have been stopped before the gun ever came out?
Prevented,
Could somebody,
de-escalated
he had a
before.
shotgun under that.
A long gun.
How do you not realize, I know, I understand a concealed pistol, but
It also
Right.
could have been a lot worse.
Oh, it could have
Yes.
been, I mean,
For sure.
hundreds of times.
I don't think that's a necessary conversation.
Yeah.
right,
Could
Yeah.
have been
right.
much
Much.
worse.
And it
Well,
got
and that's
stopped
why-
well before that.
It was done well.
Yes,
That I'm looking at this as our church.
right.
The people that
Well,
we
I
are having
haven't seen a
conversations.
situation like this that's been dealt with that well
fast.
and that fast. But every time we see it, we've got to be taking a lesson from it, figuring out, okay, they did well. How can we do better?
That's right.
You know, they stopped it very early. How can we stop it before the gun ever comes out?
Unfortunately,
You know, and
lives
if
were
somebody
lost.
comes, yeah,
That's right.
you know, in a place like that, I don't know how cold it was that day. I don't think it was that cold. Because
The
I was
rest
in
of
Virginia
the
that
rest,
day.
like here?
the rest of
The
the church.
only reason I wore my trench coat to church in Virginia that day was because it was raining. I was protecting my
you
clothing.
would own a trench coat.
Of course I did. But very rarely do I have a long gun.
The trench coat? Well, I guess you were in Virginia though.
Who would know?
So
That's
I
right.
guess that's a video for a different day though. We do need to discuss Virginia. So yeah. Now, let us know what you guys think. This one could get kind of crazy, but there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of stuff to learn, a lot of stuff to talk about. Not armchair warrior in this at all, but absolutely we need to be learning and growing and becoming better from something like this, and not just use this as a propaganda machine to be more pro Second Amendment, more gun. Yeah, we need to be shooting more, but let's go beyond that. Let's be better than that.
So let us know your thoughts. If you've got a comment or a question, leave it below. We'll do our best to answer those and to interact with what you have to say as well. Let us know what this has done to make you think a little bit more. What are you doing to prepare better for this kind of thing happening? We all think it'll never happen to us until it actually does. And so we've got to do our best to train and be prepared for whatever may happen. Hope to see you again in the next video. Have a great day. Stay safe. Train hard.